Good evening. The Town of Los Gatos Council meeting of April 15, 2025 is called to order. Could we call the roll, please?
Councilmember Isto?
Here.
Councilmember Ennie?
Here.
Councilmember Badami?
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Here.
Mayor Hudis?
Here. And so the next thing is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I wonder if Councilmember Risto would lead us in the pledge, please. Thank you. The first item is the Arbor Day proclamation. For joining Ms. Burnham. I don't know if you want to say anything about Arbor Day first. Okay, then I will read the proclamation and then give it to you. So, whereas the Town of Los Gatos recognizes Friday, April 25, 2025 as National Arbor Day, and whereas the Town of Los Gatos has for its 45th consecutive year been recognized as a Tree City USA for its commitment to an effective ongoing community forestry program. And whereas the Town of Los Gatos established and observes the 4 National Arbor Day Foundation standards: a tree board or department, a tree care ordinance, a comprehensive community forestry program, and annual Arbor Day observance. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature of urban areas, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, provide habitats for wildlife, and are a renewable resource. And whereas trees in our community increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas in recognition of its status as Tree City USA, the Town of Los Gatos will host a tree planting ceremony in Town Plaza on Sunday, April 27, 2025, during the town's Spring into Green celebration to celebrate National Arbor Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Matthew Hudis, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the Town of Los Gatos, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25th, 2025 as National Arbor Day within the Town of Los Gatos, and call upon all people to renew their commitment to urban forestry efforts. Thank you, Ms. Burnham, for your work and our Parks and Public Works in doing many of the things that we're being cited for today.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a relatively short agenda today, and we will start with the consent items and then move to the verbal communications, and then to the one item that's on our public hearings. I do have an announcement to make at Council Matters, so if you're planning on slipping out, you can always watch it on TV. Thank you, and so with that, consent items. Does the council have any comments or questions or wish to pull any items that are on consent? Don't see any. Then I will go to verbal communications or, public comment on consent. And I have a card from Gus Hu, if you'd like to speak on item number 2, which is on the consent agenda.
Yeah, this is for the minutes of last week when I spoke to you and Council Member Risto stated about when I was the $1 million emergency waste management, or the emergency management for the fire, that $1 million. And I just wanted to clarify that I also gave you what Saratoga was doing, the highlighted picture, and they had a really good response. And also the new museum had a couple days later had a fire expert out of the University of San Francisco, who's a nonprofit that specializes in this. And so and I think they recorded it. So you guys should all know about that, and you can save $1 million. One other thing was last time was this is to Rob Moore. I saw you taking pictures of us in the back there. I was talking to Lindley, and you guys are the right and left. I said I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I was trying to settle this out of court type of thing, and she did give me her things, and I said that she was in the wrong and stuff like that, and I would like to. She just I said, you should be saying forgiveness, and so she did write more to the forgiveness part, and that was because I got a bad vibe that you're thinking that I'm on her side. I'm not on nobody's side on this issue. I think, and one other thing is I hope that you got the self-inflicted wound picture of Trump's here that I gave Wendy last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak on the consent?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. So looking for a motion. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I move to approve items 1 through 9 under the consent items.
Okay, second by Vice Mayor. And so I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. So now we will move on to verbal communications. And I have 2 cards here. First one is Gus Hu.
I forgot to put on my soccer thing, but now I want to give you some character. Half a dozen things that I'd like to do. The censorship, I like to, try to use the screen to show everybody what's going on with what I see as the Civil War, and I sent in pictures of what's going on with ICE and with her. Migrant detainees should be in El Salvador prison for the rest of their lives. This is a wicked witch type of thing. I think that you're sending Venezuelan people to El Salvador. I have a son that I adopted in '92. His mother came across, and she was Venezuelan. She was a single mom, and we adopted a son. And it's one of the things why I'm the way I am, because it hits really at home, and I get kind of mad at this. Another thing is I would really appreciate help with identifying the second shooter, and I could pass this out, but I don't know if you guys, I've tried several times, and that's one of the things that I wanted to do that. Third thing was the water bills. I was supposed to try to get together with you. I'll drop off some pictures of the water bills that it was misspelled. I get in a rush, and if you look at I'll drop these off to you. But this one says can't fathom that how a $53 water comes with a $243 service charge. And one of the biggest things is the service charge that that's happening. But I've been fighting that for years. Really quick, traffic safety. C. Wiley spoke last time. 7-year-old boy died. 93-year-old guy also died for painting the roads. They wanted to do that. I'm offering to paint the yellow brick road down Lynn. That's I've always done. And last is the soccer. Push soccer for the World Cup and football and the basketball series in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any. Leafa, go.
Good evening. Considering such a short agenda this evening, my speech here this evening shouldn't take more than 2 hours and 45 minutes to try and fill in the gap. So seriously, I'm speaking only as a long-term resident and not representing any group. As our elected and/or town-employed staff, citizens are expecting you to duly represent us to ensure our town is able to preserve the character and sense of a welcoming community that has encouraged residents to move here, then they want to stay to enjoy life in Los Gatos. Overall, you have done a pretty good job. And last week's study session with the Planning Commission was very helpful and informative for the whole community. Info on CEQA's potential positive use as a tool for local public safety protection was helpful, as well as the town requesting clarity on the number of 90-day extensions a developer could request for his application to be extended. However, now with more of the goofier legislation from Sacramento and local Bay Area and county agencies enforcing such regulations, the welcoming sense of community in town is very seriously challenged. To understand how welcoming Los Gatos has been, note in the most recent census data, just over 25% of our town's population was foreign-born, and only 70% of the population in town speaks English only at home. Please provide the commitment, that's census data, please provide the commitment we elected you to exercise to not allow developers to build housing that is not consistent with the town's generally accepted housing element due to their size, location, and design, and also that are not environmentally sound, do not meet CEQA requirements, and are not financially reasonable to the cost to our town due to the demand for additional public services, nor to be in areas that are outside of the earthquake zones, the fault lines, and the flood zones from the reservoirs and the water tables that go through many of the areas where these high developments are being proposed. They are negatively impacting also the water, sewage, and safe routes in our neighborhoods. Santa Clara County Fire has stated that single ingress and egress areas are not going to be serviceable in an emergency, and building above 4 stories requires both access and equipment not currently in any of the town's fire stations. Please join with our neighboring communities to message the county and state politicians to stop their dangerous mandates. Work with our community members to propose solutions that are still achievable.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Fago.
you.
Okay, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to participate in verbal communications?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, I will close verbal communications. Yeah, please try to get your card in so that we can manage the meeting. Thank you.
I just wanted to wish everyone here and everyone in town happy holidays, happy Easter, and Chag Pesach Sameach, which means happy Passover holidays. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, we now move to item number 10, which is our public hearing item tonight, and that's a report on the status of the town's vacancies, recruitments, and retention efforts pursuant to Assembly Bill 2561.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm Cheryl Parkman, the Human Resources Director, and I'm here to give you a presentation tonight on the status of the town's vacancies and our recruitment and retention efforts. So I believe there's a PowerPoint if the clerks would be so happy as to put that up for me. And while that presentation is being put up, I will give you really the status of our vacancies. But first, I want to give you a little bit of background as to why I'm bringing this to you tonight. On January 1st, 2025, a new Assembly Bill, Assembly Bill 2561, was made effective. And this is an Assembly Bill that does really three things, and that's the reason why I'm here tonight. So the first is that there should be a public hearing in front of the governing body at least once per fiscal year that identifies the status of our vacancies, recruitment and retention efforts, and really to identify any necessary changes to policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may resolve obstacles in the hiring practice. This public hearing should also present additional information regarding vacancies if there's a vacancy rate in a bargaining unit that's at least 20%. And we allow any recognized employee organizations or unions to make presentations at the hearing. As of tonight, I did not receive any requests from any of our unions, our three unions, to make a presentation. So I'll be the one making the presentation tonight. And so with that background, I'm actually very happy to report on the status of the town's vacancies because we're actually at a very low rate of 7.82%. And actually, I think the next slide after that, what you can see is our historical background on our vacancies. So as you can see, we've actually held pretty steady with the number of full-time equivalent positions within the town since COVID. And the reason why I chose fiscal year 2020, 2021 is really to show what we've done since COVID and in the post-COVID era as we've stabilized our workforce. So actually, at the height of the pandemic, we had an 11% that went up to 12%, and we've really done a lot of work to try and reduce those vacancies over the last 5 years. So right now, 7.82, below 10%, is a very good vacancy rate among public agencies. I know that one of my colleagues in Sunnyvale is actually a report around a 6.5% vacancy rate. So really, we're about average as we're reporting out these vacancies. And I want to also point out that this data for this fiscal year is really as of March 31st. The other data is as of the fiscal year. And that was because that was the most recent data that we had. I do want to point out that since this time, as the report was published, we actually have had almost 5 other vacancies that we're going to be able to fill up until mid-May. So actually, our vacancy rate is going to be even more reduced than what you see right now. Another thing I wanted to point out is that the 153.5 vacancies, or I'm sorry, full-time equivalent positions includes the emergency manager. So we are at a very low vacancy rate right now. On the next slide, what we can see is something about our recruitment efforts. So really what we've tried to do is reduce our recruitment timeline. And one of the ways that we've done that is we've implemented the use of NeoGov. And we've really tried to expand on the capabilities within NeoGov. NeoGov is a software platform that allows candidates to apply to more than one position at a time. It allows staff to see all the applications in one place and actually has a very easy to use rating system. This has really helped reduce our timeline, and right now we're averaging under 60 days from the start of a recruitment to finish. What we've seen from other government agencies is that they may take more than 100 days. So we feel as though we're at a very fast pace for filling our vacancies. We have an improved candidate experience from NeoGov because candidates are able to get communication back from the town very quickly in terms of the status of their applications. And one thing that we're looking to do in the next fiscal year is really introduce surveys on the recruitment experience to try and further improve the process and make it more of a scientific effort to determine how we can improve that. Another thing that our HR department has done is reviewed job classifications. And what I mean by that is if we know that we have a vacancy and there's a job classification that hasn't been updated in a number of years, we're taking those job classifications and improving them, making them up to date. There are some cases where we do need to provide that data to the unions for comment, but so far it's been a very easy process to work with them. We also are aligning those classifications with any job industry standards to make sure that we're staying up to date with all sort of government regulations and other trends within the public sector. We also make sure that we're advertising on as many job boards and social media as possible so we can really broaden the types of candidates that are getting views on our vacancies. And in fact, one of our last recruitments, we saw a number of applicants from all over the nation. They were very interested in our position. And what that tells me is that we're a very desirable workplace. You know, the name of the town of Los Gatos is nationwide and people do want to come work here. And so that's why, one of the prongs of AB 2561 is identifying any obstacles that may prevent us from being able to recruit or retain our employees. And at this point, we're not able to say that we have any obstacles. We think that we have, a lot of benefits and perks where people want to work here and they want to work for this community. So I'm not able to report on any obstacles because we don't believe we have any. We do think that people want to come work for this town, and that's evidenced by the number of applications that we're getting from a wide-ranging area of the nation. One of our last recruitments, we had over 50 applications just for one recruitment. And that was advertising on our social media pages, on LinkedIn. It was CalOps and also government jobs. And even just from those, those 4 areas, we were able to attract that many candidates. So I can't say there are any obstacles at this point. One of our other recruitment efforts, on the next slide, is we've also started and continued a pilot program for employee referral bonuses and lateral hiring. We have identified previously that our police department had hiring needs, and one of those needs was at the lateral level in addition to at the officer and pre-service level. Pre-service means someone that may have passed an academy but hasn't actually started at an agency yet, so they're not technically a lateral. So what we've done is we've actually paid almost $76,000 in bonuses since September 26, 2022 in an effort to attract these police officers to work at the town of Los Gatos. So we've done 6 hiring bonuses for lateral officers, and that's $10,000 at the time of hire. And we've also done 6 referral bonuses. And this was actually before we started the new bonus program for our internal staff to receive bonuses, which doubled the previous amounts. So $6,000 for entry level, $8,000 for pre-service, and $10,000 for lateral police officers. And we are finding again that our recruitments are ones where people are applying for our vacancies. And so we don't consider this necessarily to be an obstacle in terms of that's why we're doing the referral bonus or lateral bonuses, but we do see that it's something that is attracting candidates to our positions. And I think maybe lastly of my slides is our retention efforts. So last summer, and last April for the POA, we agreed to 3 different successor MOU agreements with our 3 unions, TEA, AFSCME, and the POA. These included competitive wage increases. And one of the other things that we're doing, like many of our other agencies, is allowing flexibility in schedules through an alternate work schedule. Now, this may be something where someone works what's called a 9/80 schedule, which is where they work 80 hours over 9 days, and also hybrid telework arrangements, so employees can have that ability to have 1 or 2 days working from home. We also believe that we have competitive benefits for medical, vision, dental, and short-term disability, and so we believe that we are attracting our candidates again through these competitive benefits. And so that is, I believe, the conclusion of my presentation. I'm extremely happy to take any questions from you. And if not, then I would just hope you would make a motion to accept my report.
Okay, thank you. Well, before that, we probably have some questions from council, and then we'll open to public comment. So maybe I could start with Councilmember Badami.
Thank you, Mayor. I may have been mistaken, but I previously understood our housing costs to be an obstacle to seeking employment here. Is that no longer the case?
I believe what we're seeing at a federal level is that there are other items at play. So it is making our area attractive to those who wish to live in California or the Bay Area. And that's why we're seeing applicants from outside of the area. However, we are seeing many applicants from inside the Bay Area who may already live here. And so the burden or the high cost of living is not necessarily a deterrent to them applying to this jurisdiction.
So one more follow-up, if I may. So the applicants that you're seeing, are the bulk of them from the Bay Area, or a lot of them just not from the Bay Area and are willing to relocate and absorb higher housing costs compared to the rest of the nation?
I would say that it's dependent on the position, but I can tell you that there are a couple of positions of maybe the manager or above level where we're seeing people applying outside the area. And for those that are below the manager level, we're seeing mostly people who are already living in the Bay Area.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. It's not in this presentation, but in the report we received, there was a further breakdown on the vacancies where our police was below the 20% threshold, but close. It was 19.44, I think. And I'm just curious, how does that compare to other agencies? Is that a department that's harder to fill than others? If we look at other, not agencies, other municipalities.
I think anecdotally speaking, and based on my previous experience in another jurisdiction, that the police officer recruitments are more difficult positions to fill. And that's because of the nature of the job. You don't necessarily want to recruit a police officer that doesn't fit with the city or doesn't fit with the culture of the department. So while there may be, applicants, you want to make sure that that's the right person in the right role. And so I don't know or have the information today of the specific police vacancy numbers from other agencies, but anecdotally, those police positions are harder to fill.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear about the success of NeoGov and getting our timeline to under 60 days feels pretty good. I have a friend who has been applying for jobs in San Francisco, and he heard back after 13 months recently, which is absurd. I wanted to ask, and if you don't know the answer to this, it's okay. Do you know what the motivation for this new state law was, and sort of what the intention for us to do with the information is?
Can't necessarily speak to the motivation of why. I think that what was happening is that there are sometimes vacancies in public sectors, and there's not necessarily always the transparency and to understand why those vacancies are existing. And so there was, I believe, a desire to see or hear from public agencies, maybe from employee represented groups, as to why some of these vacancies were existing. And so that transparency is really why I'm before you today, to let you know why we're, in kind of a good state, I guess I would say, of a low vacancy rate.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. And then just to follow on, so with that, and I understand that if we're above 20%, things change somewhat. So does that is it like an informal grievance process, or what is how does it work if a bargaining unit is above 20% and they want to air their complaints to the council?
Sure. So if there is a vacancy rate in a bargaining unit that's over 20%, the town would actually have additional information that I would need to present to council, including, the number of applications, how we're recruiting for it, what are the retention issues, particularly for that bargaining unit. Because we didn't meet that threshold, that information was not presented to you today. And for the bargaining units, there's not necessarily any sort of state law that mandates that they have to give a presentation if it is, but they can also provide their point of view as to why they believe that the vacancy rate is over 20%, as it may differ from that jurisdictions.
Okay, got it. So it's giving them another avenue to talk with decision makers.
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to public comment and come back to the council. I don't have any cards. Is there anyone on Zoom who wants to speak on this?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so I'll close public comment. Further questions from council members? I did have one, and that's talking about the vacancy. And I know that you're not obligated to capture these statistics, but I'm just wondering your sense of the vacancy, and particularly, well, all the vacancies in town. Is it, what percentage or what portion is due to planned versus unplanned vacancies?
That is a good question. I would say that of the vacancies that I'm filling to date, I would say it's maybe for right now, a 50-50 split between those who had planned retirements, or in fact, there were internal promotions that led to, a cascade vacancy is how I would refer to it. There are some who have, separated without having a retirement or an internal promotion. Within. And at this point, this fluctuates, but of my vacancies today, I would say that it is around 50-50.
Okay, thank you. And just a comment is that I think that that's something to pay attention to, and that can tell you a lot about your pay scale, about the way people feel they're being treated, and about opportunities. And I know this is a state law, and it's interesting, that you have to report the vacancy rate, but there's nothing that would prevent a council from eliminating positions and making the vacancy rate look better. So it's kind of an interesting exercise, but I do think that the planned and unplanned is probably something important. Any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Bristow.
Thank you, Mayor. You bring up an interesting point that it made me think about the fact that there might be people separating to go somewhere for a promotion, because I think about the fact that with a small operation we have, there isn't always an opportunity for everybody who wants a promotion to be able to get that. You're a pyramid. And so I think as, looking into those numbers, if it's 50-50, of those separating to take another position, I'd be curious to know at some point how many are going for promotions as opposed to just a lateral change. I could understand there certainly would also be a family change, like you're moving or something else. Manager?
That's a very good question. And since I arrived in November, I have been doing exit meetings with employees that are leaving. There's been 3 so far. One was an industrial injury retirement, and the other 2 were retirements. None of them were separated because they were leaving an environment for a promotion or to go to another job.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I don't know if it's a question. I wanted to make a comment because I appreciate the other comment about the vacancies at our police department. I understand we had a number of planned retirements, and I think we always seek the best employees in all of our departments, given the rigorous work of our police department and the fact that there's a small pool of people that would fit that criteria, and that we have very high standards for our specific type of community policing. It doesn't make me happy that we have these vacancy rates, but I also feel like we wouldn't want to lower our standards just to fill the spots. So, hopefully with the bonuses we have and the advertising and the broad reach, and, I'm just always so impressed at every year at the swearing-in ceremonies, the quality of new hires we have in the police department, and on a regular basis, the quality of the employees in all of our departments, that I also appreciate that we don't lower our standards just to fill vacancy rates. So thank you for that.
Other comments, questions, or yes, Vice Mayor?
I'll just conclude with, I just want to compliment our small but mighty HR team. I think y'all have dealt with a lot. Not everyone in the public knows that your office has gotten moved and you've been moved around, and the fact that y'all continue to drop the vacancy rate, I think, is very impressive. So thank you for your hard work for our community.
You're very welcome, and I have a very dedicated team that is excellent at what they do. I'm extremely proud of the effort they've put into this year, and I think that their efforts are really showing through this report. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Other comments or motion? I think we need to receive the report. Vice Mayor?
Move to receive the report.
Second.
Okay, we have any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And again, Ms. Parkman, I want to thank you very much for your efforts in this first year of reporting under the state law, and your perspective on the town and how attractive it is for great employees. So thank you. Okay, so that concludes item number 10, and so the last items are the council matters, and so why don't we start with that? And I'll start down this end. Councilmember Rennie.
Thank you, Mayor. On 4-9, I attended the Valley Water Commission. Also on 4-9, I attended Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board meeting. The thing of interest there was, I think it was our State Senator Becker has a bill we're calling regionalization. Currently, our CAISO, which is the balancing authority, balances the electric load to the supply, only does it within California for the day-ahead market and, the day-of market. So now they're talking about opening up the day-ahead market to outside California so that you can buy and schedule into California from outside sources, and it also would allow us to more easily sell out our extra solar. Sometimes we have to curtail solar, usually in the like January to April timeframe, we end up curtailing solar at our large solar plants. This would allow us to more easily sell that out. On 4-10, I met with a consultant who's working on trying to solve the girls' softball field problem in Los Gatos. And that's it.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I held my councilmember community coffee along with other council members here. I attended the Jewish Community Relations Council Freedom Seder. It was a great event, along with others here as well. I attended the county fire headquarters grand opening. For those that don't know, the headquarters for County Fire used to be in Los Gatos. They moved over to Campbell. It's a loss, but hopefully something new and exciting happens with their old space, and their new space is fantastic. I spoke at the 5051 protest in downtown San Jose about the importance of local government taking action in the face of attacks on our residents from the federal government. Somewhat related to that, I talked with our Congressman Sam Liccardo about a variety of issues impacting Los Gatos. I met with a few different residents, some about traffic, others about some safety issues. I attended the VTA board meeting. I attended the West Valley Sanitation District board meeting and attended the Finance Commission meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. On the 3rd of April, and I'll leave the details to our mayor because he was there to speak, I attended the NUMU Art Now High School Juried Exhibition opening, and the exhibition runs through May, and I definitely encourage anyone who hasn't been to NUMU to check out this amazing art. It's county-wide, and I believe there were over 700 submissions, and I think there's about 50-something art pieces there, and that evening wasn't enough, so I'll be back a couple more times. In addition to seeing the art, each student also writes up a reflection on it, and the thoughtfulness, the maturity, the insight that these high school students have is really impressive. So I suggest everybody go over to NUMU and check out the exhibit in the next month. I also attended the Freedom Seder along with our mayor and vice mayor, and I believe our mayor was there to read there, so I'll let you give more information on that. I attended the Santa Clara County Fire District headquarters open house. Really great to see a bunch of other electeds there, talk to the people at the fire department, get a presentation, get a tour, and it is a really nice location and very effective. On the 10th, I attended the VTA Policy Advisory Committee, and that's our monthly meeting. We had a couple of action items. We recommended that the VTA Board of Directors adopt the 2016 Measure B program for fiscal years 26 and 27, the biannual budget, and the 10-year program from 2028 to 2035. We also recommended authorizing the general manager to execute all necessary agreements to allocate and administer 2016 Measure B funds for County Expressway and Caltrain-related projects. So we got a presentation on that. There's a whole lot of things like grade separation, bike ped projects, some roadway projects. So that should be moving forward. This, as a reminder, is a 30-year tax, so there's a lot of projects that are going in phases. So this was approving what's going to move forward in the next 2 years. Our other action item was recommending the VTA Board of Directors approve the fiscal year 26 and 27 proposed congestion management program, work program, and biannual budget. And that is separate from Measure B. So under Measure B is the work that should happen with the Highway 9, Highway 17 interchange and continuing the lanes from Lark Avenue to Highway 9. This congestion management program is separate from Measure B. So lots of work going on around the valley. And on the 11th, this was great. It took most of the day, but I went on, and I recommend this to anyone. I went on the VIP Water Walk Tour, the Santa Clara Valley Water District. So we met at 8 in the morning and got back around 3, took a bus tour, visited, we started out at Alamedo's groundwater recharge. So we started there where there was a discussion of how groundwater is monitored, how the perk pounds are used to refill our groundwater, and making sure that we don't, overpump and have subsistence and, make sure other groups don't do that either. We then went to Anderson Dam to look at the seismic retrofit and learned about that project, which is huge, and understanding why it's going to take 6 years to rebuild that dam. Turns out it's on a fault. There's a whole lot of work that has to be done. It can't be taken down and rebuilt in 1 year. So stage 1 is, well, they're doing the weirs, they're doing the pipe, there's a whole bunch of other work. And when they get to the dam, I think in a year or so, the top third comes down in 1 year, and you can't work during the rainy season. The next third comes down. On year 3, the critical work is taking down the last third of the dam and rebuilding it. And then you have the next third and the next third until it's rebuilt. And the biggest problem with that dam is it was built in 1930 with kind of loose material that can liquefy in an earthquake. And so in the event of an earthquake on the Calaveras Fault, the bottom of that dam could liquefy, it could collapse, then water can breach the top and erode it. And if anyone remembers any of the videos of the Oroville Dam, it's not a scenario we want. Very complicated project. We then went to the Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project, which in the Nagley neighborhood of San Jose is a really beautiful neighborhood with gorgeous houses along the Coyote Creek. Massive flooding incident in 2017. And part of that effort, there's 10-foot flood walls along the back of some houses and some channels to take care of the water. In the streets along that area, there was not a desire by the neighbors to have great big walls along the street in front of their houses. So they've actually got this really cool technology where the walls will be in the pavement, and when the water floods in, the walls will float up and then lock into place and create a channel for the water. So that was super cool for me. And then we went to the Silicon Valley Advanced Water Purification Center. My third time being there, we all drank recycled water. Anybody who and right now it's only used for recharging groundwater ultimately, and also for irrigation. But anybody who's concerned about drinking recycled water, if you think desal is a good idea, you're recycling a fish toilet. I think there's like 10 to 100x more particulate in ocean water than there would be in home wastewater. So this is a great way to make ourselves drought proof, where you've already got water in the location. Instead of flushing it away, you can recycle it and keep it on site. And then finally, we went to the South San Francisco Bay Shoreline Project, which is a project between Valley Water and the Army Corps of Engineers working on levee projects along outside of the El Viso area. So very informative day and a lot of work going on to protect possibly our most precious asset, water. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Badami.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 3rd and again on April 10th, I participated in meetings of a resident wildfire advisory group. On April 3rd, I attended a virtual wildfire insurance town hall meeting hosted by Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara and Assembly Member Gail Pellerin. On April 4th, I participated in a meeting of the Housing and Community Development Advisory Committee. And on April 14th, I attended a meeting of the Finance Commission as an observer.
Thank you. I'm going to start with an important thing that I learned just a few minutes before the meeting. As mayor in Los Gatos, I'm usually the last person to know about anything. But I did learn that on Thursday, this Thursday, Representative Jimmy Panetta and Representative Sam Liccardo will be holding an open house, a town hall, I'm sorry, at the Los Gatos High School at 7 p.m. Just across the street. I'm sure they're going to use their communication capability to get the word out, but as with many of these town halls, there's opportunity for the public to ask questions and interact. And so I think we are fortunate to have two local elected representatives hosting that right here in Los Gatos. And then that's the big announcement. The small things are some things that were covered before. My personal take on the Passover Seder, which is really a community event. In the Jewish tradition, it's a family dinner, but this is a family dinner for several hundred people, and basically celebrating this really unique holiday that celebrates liberation from slavery, it celebrates freedom, and celebrates humanity. And so it is an opportunity for people from all backgrounds to share their perspectives and experiences at this event. This was held in San Jose. Couple other things. The Art Now exhibit really moved me, and I really highly recommend that you take a few minutes, if you can, to go over to Numu and have a look. The art is superb, and the effort and the meaning that the students put into this is just incredible. And again, Los Gatos is really, I think, very fortunate to host a regional event like this. And there will be hundreds of people there at the award ceremony, which is at the end of May. I am unable to make that, but I was able to be there for the opening, and it was a very, very exciting event. I've had a couple of meetings with Los Gatos Thrives, who continue to plug away at their plans for community center. Some I think are pretty creative, and to host and I hosted a wildfire advisory group meeting. This is advisory to me, so that I can learn more about ideas for improving our emergency preparedness, and specifically in 5 areas that build off of the ad hoc committee report that was delivered in 2020. So more on that to come. I'm hoping to have as one of our town council priorities to have a session on wildfire preparedness and emergency preparedness before the end of June, and that will be an agendized item. So just doing my homework, trying to get prepared for that. Participated in Finance Commission meeting, and that's about it. So that concludes council matters, and so town manager, you have a report, and then town attorney.
I think all was said by the council members, so no further report.
Okay. Getting ready for budget season, though, right? Town attorney?
Thank you. The council has voted to continue the closed session discussion, which was of 2 items of anticipated litigation in accordance with Government Code Section 54956.9. And so I believe that council will be reconvening in the closed session upstairs.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes this meeting, and we will reconvene in closed session.